The wedding was less than 5 minutes from beginning when the groom realized he might have just destroyed his own life by opening her phone. At first, he thought it was only cheating. One secret relationship. One mistake. One betrayal. Something painful, but survivable. Then he kept scrolling. And suddenly, the room around him no longer felt real. Because the men in those messages weren't strangers. They were his friends. The same friends adjusting their suits inside the church. The same friends shaking his hand that morning. The same friends smiling in wedding photos hours before everything collapsed. For different conversations. For different affairs. And hidden between those messages was a photo of a medical report with her name on it. Positive HIV test. The groom read it once. Then again. His hand started shaking so badly, he almost dropped the phone. Inside the church, guests were already standing for the bride. Music filled the room. Nobody knew the man waiting at the altar could barely breathe anymore. Because one horrifying question had just entered his mind. If she had been sleeping with 4 different men, then who infected her? And worse, was it already too late for him too? The doors opened. The bride stepped inside smiling like the happiest woman alive. Beautiful white dress. Perfect makeup. Perfect smile. A woman walking toward a future that was seconds away from exploding. The groom stared at her differently now. Not with love. Not even with anger. With fear. Real fear. Because standing across from him wasn't just the woman he planned to marry anymore. Standing across from him was a secret capable of destroying everyone in that church. The pastor began speaking. Guests smiled. Phones recorded. But the groom wasn't listening. He was too busy noticing something strange. One of his friends refused to look at him. Another kept wiping sweat from his face. And a third had suddenly disappeared completely. That was the moment the groom understood something even worse. The affairs weren't secrets anymore. Somebody else already knew. The bride finally reached the altar and grabbed his hands gently. Then she whispered softly, "Are you okay?" For a few seconds, he said nothing. The church became painfully quiet. Then slowly, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the folded medical report. The color instantly disappeared from her face. And before anyone could understand what was happening, one of the groom's closest friends suddenly turned around and ran out of the church. That's when the screaming started. 2 weeks earlier, Daniel and Vanessa looked like the kind of couple people posted online with captions like, "Relationship goals." They had been together long enough to survive real problems. Or at least that's what everyone believed. Daniel met Vanessa at a birthday party through mutual friends almost 4 years earlier. She was confident, funny, beautiful without trying too hard. The kind of woman who made people feel important when she spoke to them. Daniel fell hard almost immediately. And Vanessa knew it. At the time, Daniel was building his own logistics company with 2 of his closest friends, Marcus and Devin. Money was finally starting to come in. Life was improving. And Vanessa fit perfectly into the future he imagined for himself. Within months, she became part of everything. Game nights, birthday dinners, road trips, holiday parties. She blended into Daniel's friend group so naturally that eventually nobody even saw her as Daniel's girlfriend anymore. She was just part of the circle. And maybe that was where the problem began. Because over time, boundaries slowly disappeared. At first, the interactions seemed harmless. Vanessa joking with Marcus too much. Late-night group calls that continued even after Daniel went to sleep. Private jokes between her and Jalen nobody explained. But when trust is strong enough, the brain ignores warning signs. Daniel trusted everyone involved, especially his friends. These were men he considered brothers. Men who helped him when his business nearly failed. Men who stood beside him when his father died. Men he planned to make godfathers to his future children. The idea that any of them could betray him felt impossible. And Vanessa understood that perfectly. By the time wedding planning started, things became more intense. Everyone was constantly around each other. Cake tastings, venue visits, bachelor party planning, late-night rehearsals. Daniel was exhausted most days trying to balance work and wedding expenses, which meant he stopped noticing certain things, like how Vanessa suddenly became protective of her phone, or how Marcus stopped bringing his own girlfriend around the group, or why Devin started avoiding eye contact anytime Vanessa entered the room. Tiny details, easy to ignore individually, dangerous when connected together. Then came the first real moment that disturbed him. 10 days before the wedding, Daniel had returned home early from work after canceling a meeting. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. At first, he thought Vanessa wasn't home. Then he heard movement upstairs. A loud thud, followed by rushed footsteps. Daniel walked toward the bedroom slowly. And when Vanessa opened the door, she looked terrified. Not surprised. Terrified. Her hair was messy. Her breathing uneven. And behind her, the bathroom shower was running even though nobody was inside. Daniel stared at her for several seconds. Are you okay? She forced a laugh too quickly. Yeah, why wouldn't I be? Something felt wrong immediately. But before he could think deeper about it, Vanessa wrapped her arms around him and kissed him. Hard. Like she was trying to distract him from something. And somehow, it worked. At least for that day. Because later that same night, while Vanessa slept beside him, Daniel noticed her phone light up again. One message. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Until he saw the preview text. He can never find out about us. Daniel's stomach tightened instantly. For the first time in 4 years, fear entered the relationship. And from that moment forward, every small lie started becoming impossible to ignore. Daniel tried convincing himself he was overthinking everything. Maybe the message meant nothing. Maybe it was old. Maybe there was some explanation that would make him feel stupid for even doubting her. That's what love does sometimes. It trains you to ignore your own instincts. The next morning, Vanessa acted completely normal. Too normal. She kissed him goodbye before work. Talked about flower arrangements. Complained about seating charts. Meanwhile, Daniel couldn't stop hearing the words from that message repeating inside his head. He can never find out about us. Every time Vanessa smiled at him now, something felt fake. And the worst part? Daniel still wanted to believe her. Because accepting the truth meant accepting that the woman he planned to marry might not be the person he thought she was. For the next few days, he started noticing things he normally ignored. Vanessa suddenly carrying her phone everywhere, turning it face down during dinner, leaving rooms to answer calls. And every time Daniel casually asked who she was talking to, her answers came too fast. My cousin. Wedding planner. Jessica from work. Always prepared. Always smooth. Almost too smooth. Then came another moment Daniel couldn't shake. 5 days before the wedding, the entire friend group met at a restaurant to finalize bachelor and bachelorette plans. At first, everything felt normal. Laughing, jokes, drinks. But halfway through dinner, Daniel left the table to take a work call. And when he returned, the energy had changed instantly. Conversation stopped. Marcus looked down at his plate. Jalen grabbed his drink too quickly. Vanessa avoided eye contact completely. It lasted only a second. But Daniel noticed it. People don't suddenly go silent unless something was being hidden. That night, Daniel barely slept. His mind kept replaying every strange interaction from the last few months. The late-night calls, the nervous behavior, the message, the shower running upstairs. Tiny details that suddenly started connecting into something ugly. Then came the bachelor party. The night everything truly started falling apart. Daniel rented a private Airbnb outside the city for one final weekend with his closest friends before the wedding. But almost immediately, things felt wrong. Devin canceled at the last minute claiming he was sick. Jalen arrived late, already drunk. Marcus barely spoke the entire night. Even Tyrese seemed distracted. Daniel kept trying to force the energy back to normal. But deep down, he could feel something collapsing around him. At around 2 in the morning, Marcus got heavily intoxicated and started rambling while they sat outside near the pool. At first, it sounded meaningless.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.
Until Marcus suddenly looked directly at Daniel and said, "You trust people too much." Daniel laughed awkwardly. What's that supposed to mean? Marcus stared into his drink for several seconds before quietly saying, "Some betrayals don't come from enemies." The comment instantly changed the mood. Tyrese immediately told Marcus to shut up. Marcus laughed it off afterward. Pretended he was drunk. Pretended it meant nothing. But Daniel felt cold all over. Because drunk people rarely invent guilt. The next morning, Daniel returned home early. Vanessa was still asleep upstairs. Her phone sat charging on the nightstand. And for the first time in their relationship, Daniel picked it up intentionally. His hands shook as he entered the password. But the moment the screen opened, his entire world shattered. Messages. Hundreds of them. Different names. Different conversations. Different lies. Marcus. Jalen. Devin. Even Tyrese. Daniel's breathing became uneven as he kept scrolling. Hotel reservations, secret meetups, photos, voice notes, conversations dating back nearly a year. Some happened while he was at work. Others happened during group trips. One message nearly stopped his heart completely. Marcus. He still has no idea, does he? Vanessa. Daniel trusts all of you too much. Daniel physically stepped backward from the bed, like his body was rejecting what his eyes were seeing. But the nightmare wasn't over, because buried deeper in the messages was something even worse. An image attachment, a medical report, Vanessa's name, positive HIV test. Daniel froze completely. For several seconds, he couldn't even breathe. His brain stopped processing reality. This wasn't just cheating anymore. Now there was fear, real fear, because suddenly every thought inside his head became darker. Who knew first? Who infected who? Did his friends already know? Was Vanessa hiding this from everyone? And most terrifying of all, had he already been exposed too? Footsteps suddenly echoed upstairs. Vanessa was waking up. Daniel quickly placed the phone back exactly where he found it and stumbled out of the bedroom before she saw his face. Because in that moment, the wedding stopped feeling real. And for the first time since proposing to Vanessa, Daniel started wondering if he was about to marry the most dangerous person he had ever known. Daniel didn't sleep the night before the wedding. He sat alone inside his car for nearly 3 hours staring at the medical report while rain hit the windshield. Every thought inside his head felt poisonous. Anger, fear, disgust, confusion. But one question refused to leave him alone. Was Vanessa hiding the diagnosis? Or was she hiding who gave it to her? At 6:14 that morning, his own test results finally arrived. Daniel opened the email with shaking hands. Negative. For several seconds, he closed his eyes and simply breathed. Relief hit him so hard it almost made him sick. But relief quickly turned into rage. Because now there was nothing left protecting Vanessa in his mind. No excuses. No denial. No hope that he misunderstood anything. She lied. She cheated. And she almost dragged him into a nightmare he never agreed to. By the time Daniel arrived at the church, he had already made a decision. The wedding would never happen. But he wanted the truth first. The entire building buzzed with excitement. Family members taking photos. Guests laughing. Music playing softly through the speakers. Meanwhile, Daniel stood in the groom's room staring at 4 men he no longer recognized. Marcus couldn't look him in the eyes. Jalen kept pacing nervously. Tyrese barely spoke. Only Devin looked completely broken. Daniel watched all of them carefully. Every movement. Every expression. And suddenly he realized something terrifying. They weren't acting like innocent people. They were acting like men waiting for disaster. Then Daniel asked the question. Quietly. Coldly. Which one of you knew first? Silence. Nobody answered. Marcus immediately grabbed a bottle of water with trembling hands. Completely unaware her entire life was seconds from collapsing. Then she reached the altar and immediately noticed his face. The smile disappeared. What's wrong? She whispered. Daniel said nothing. Instead, he pulled the folded report from his jacket and handed it to her. The moment Vanessa saw the paper, all color vanished from her face. She looked terrified, not emotional, not shocked, terrified. That reaction alone told the entire story. Daniel finally spoke, loud enough for the front rows to hear. You lied to me. Guests exchanged confused looks. Vanessa grabbed his arm desperately. Please, not here. Daniel pulled away. You slept with my friends. Gasps spread through the church instantly. Vanessa's mother stood up in disbelief. The pastor stepped backward. Phones slowly started lowering as people realized this was real. Daniel looked directly at Marcus sitting near the front. Tell them. Marcus froze. Vanessa immediately shouted. Don't. But it was already over. Because Devin suddenly stood up from his seat, crying, shaking, and confessed everything. The affairs, the lies, the diagnosis, the secrets. Every word hit the church like a bomb. Vanessa collapsed into tears. Her father looked completely shattered. Guests started arguing, yelling, leaving. One woman in the back whispered, Oh my God, over and over again like she couldn't process what she had witnessed. Then came the final blow. Daniel reached into his pocket again, this time pulling out his own test result. Negative. He stared directly at Vanessa. You almost destroyed my life. Silence swallowed the church. No music. No movement. No celebration. Just the sound of people breathing through shock. Daniel removed his wedding ring slowly and placed it on the altar between them. Then he said the words Vanessa would remember forever. "You didn't lose me today. You lost everyone." And when Daniel walked out of that church, none of his friends followed him.
If you want to uncover more chilling true crime stories and see justice exposed, subscribe to Crime Vaults as we bring light to the darkest true crime cases and never miss the secrets hidden in plain sight.